Hello and welcome to Elseworlds DC Fan Podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Chris. How are you, today,
I'm
Chris?
doing pretty good, It's Thanksgiving week. We're getting there. It's fun stuff.
Yes. Unfortunately, have not been able to get to around to this earlier like I wanted to. Right,
Hmm.
life kind of got in the way here. But we did our Penguin season recap. I did want to get this one in, if possible, because I kind of want to be able to. What we're going to talk about is episodes 5 through 9 of season 4 of Superman and Lois. Um, Now, don't fret. This is not a 4-hour podcast talking about each episode. We're going to just kind of let the conversation flow where it needs to. We're also going to kind of make some last minute predictions, theories, stuff like that for the finale, which is on Monday. So I wanted to make sure we got these in before that finale. And then, of course, next week, the plan is next week to come back and talk about Superman and Lois finale, and then start gearing up for Creature Commandos, which is that same week, but we'll probably discuss it the week after or something. All right. Episodes 5 through 9. We're talking about Break the Cycle, When the Lights Come On, A Regular Guy, Sharp Dressed Man, and To Live and Die Again. Uh, we had a lot of these episodes. We had, one directed by Elizabeth Henstridge, who plays his daughter Elizabeth, Lex's daughter Elizabeth. Um, she directed that one. We had Michael Cudlitz actually directed Sharp Dressed Man, which was written by Brent Fletcher and Todd Helbing. We had Jai Jameson um, write and direct To Live and Die Again. And then next week, we have Gregory Smith, who's directed a few episodes. And we are having, of course, the duo of Brent Fletcher and Todd Helbing wrapping up these characters on December 2nd. And you know what? I got to say, Chris, this still pisses me off. I see people on this Facebook group I'm in that I
Well,
should
that's
really
your
just
first
leave
mistake.
because those people are miserable. Those people are miserable. But I keep seeing people be like, maybe Netflix will pick this up for another. I'm like, no, let this thing's
Hmm.
end. That we have a great ending shaping up. This
Yeah.
episode 9, was awesome. And it really feels like we're setting up. And you know what? Maybe I'm gonna say something crazy. Todd Helping said he had a 7-season plan, and I'm gonna say I'm happy it's ending with 4. And the reason I say that is because we know from the season 3 finale, before they knew they were going to be picked up, right? We have the Doomsday Death and everything. So this probably would have been the plot for season 4 anyway. How do you top this in
Yeah.
seasons 5, 6, and 7? I mean, I don't know
Well,
where you would go from here
I, I
otherwise.
agree with that entirely, especially because this is an older Superman who's seen most of the villains. I mean,
Right. And I feel like ending it with Doomsday and Lex and Brainiac,
it feels very
that's a pretty killer lineup.
it feels personal, it feels like this is it feels like the penultimate episode to a series, and I think that's what it's supposed to feel like. I think they're doing a great job. And look, maybe cards are different, they do something differently, but I don't know how you're going to top this. And I actually thought, going into this week's episode, I think they have too many things to tie up. I don't know how they're going to get this to a serious conclusion. And then that ninth episode, man, I was like, they really picked up the pace. This is going crazy. So I love what they're doing with this. I feel like there's never been a final season for one of these shows that I think has gone this smoothly. With the Flash, it felt weird. It felt off. There were some. You're like, there was pressure for every episode to be awesome. They had like some bottle episodes and some filler, and you were frustrated. Um,
Arrows was a mess.
Arrow was all about Crisis, and that it really wasn't about Arrow. And
And that was fine, but the back half after he's dead, or
yeah,
it's a very strange final
it
season.
really is. It's definitely unorthodox, but this one is in position to stick the landing. I can't say they stuck the landing yet, but they are in position to stick the landing. And one of the things I love about this is that Clark Kent is such an awesome person. I think that no matter what Superman content we get, there might be better Superman scenes. I don't think I'm going to like a Clark Kent better than this one. I really don't.
Yeah, it depends, right? And it's all different, right? Like I fully expect James Gunn's Clark Kent to be the disguise
Mm-hmm.
and not his real self. This one is just like Smallville's. This is his real self, is Clark, who then, does Superman things, right? Like, um, there's a line in this episode where she calls Clark a dork, and he's like, "That's why you married me," right? Like, he really is his dorkish self, right? So I don't know. I just love that this is a character we've been able to get so many different interpretations of, and unlike a certain branch of people, I welcome all interpretations of this character, and I enjoy getting different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I said, I grew up with Smallville, and he was my Clark Kent, and I think this show has given that a run for its money. But I also fully expect to enjoy James Gunn's version. I love the Christopher Reeve version as well, and then of course, I Man of Steel. I enjoyed the first time I watched it. I have more nitpicks with it now after Justice League
Mm-hmm.
and BVS and stuff. But as a standalone, Man of Steel is had so much potential that I thought they were going to do with sequels, and they didn't. Right? Like, but the bones are there. The bones are there, um, and not even factoring in Lois and Clark, and the serials and all that kind of stuff that they have had in the past. But we've had so many interpretations of this character, and I'm glad we're going to get a conclusion, to this Superman's arc, right, throughout these 4 episodes, which we're starting to see. That's another reason why I'm very happy this show is ending. Is I don't know the last time we've had a really great arc like this for Superman, where we see, this is a Superman that did not tell his kids he was Superman, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had to sit them down in like what season one and tell them. And since then, he's been constantly worried about protecting them, protecting Lois, right? Blah 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 blah. But we've started to see in these last few episodes, as his health is deteriorating with Sam's heart, is that he can't do it alone. And this episode, I think, was a real crux, moment here of him realizing, I got to stop, like Lois says, you got to stop worrying about what they can't do or not ready for, and start looking at what they can do and be ready for. And that's what this Superman's arc is. And I do think at some point it's either he's going to fully recharge and become Superman again, or he's going to have to retire and finally hand over those reins and be more hands off and know that he set his sons up correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he instilled them with the uh with the traits they need to live that
There
legacy.
was a moment in episode 9, and we want to talk about more than just episode 9. But there was a moment in episode 9 that I thought really set everything up perfectly. The crowd is going crazy about Jordan and Jonathan, and they're celebrity in Smallville. It's the world knows now. And he just quietly says, "Boys, we need to talk." And
I love it. Just using the super hearing.
and then I really love it when they're like, "Hey, we just go to the fortress now," and he's like, "Why not give the people what they want?" It's just
Right,
the
right.
freedom that they have with that is cool. But I love how they set up the we're over the emotional baggage from Jordan and the phone call. We're over uh, the kids not thinking they're ready. I thought Jordan actually had a really great moment in this episode where Jonathan said, "Hey, don't make this another one of your pity parties." And he's like, "I'm not. I'm trying to tell you that I've been down this road before." And it was a really good brother
Right.
moment for him. So the two of them are really kind of coming together. This like their stories kind of leveled out. Whether it's a little fast for TV purposes or not is up for debate. But
Well, this is part of that, right? Like that it's the final season. I do
yeah,
think maybe Jonathan would have started having powers this season, and that would have been something that
mm,
continued, going further. But yeah, they had to really
but they're in
hit
a
the
really
fast
good
forward.
place as brothers, and that's one of the things I wanted as like an end game of this series. So I I think when we look back at this series, I think I'm gonna want to have more tied up, maybe with the Cushings. Maybe I'd want more Sarah and Jordan finally figuring it out. But all of that stuff can happen off screen in my head. Like I can headcanon a lot of that. What I
Hmm.
want them to do is stick the landing with the story that they're telling, and I think that's exactly what you're going to get. I have no reason to believe they're in such a good spot, Jordan. You said they can either regenerate Superman's powers or he can retire as Superman. They've set the story up for either to be fine.
Yeah. And I think we'll still get that wrap up with the characters you're talking about. Like, here's how I would do it, right? All right, they take care of Lex and they take care of Brainiac and they take care of Doomsday. And you get to the last, like, I don't know, 10 minutes of the show, you kind of get like a flash forward a bit of either Clark retired and it shows like Jordan making a save. He comes back, he lands, he has Sarah in front of him, he gives her a kiss, right? And there it shows, hey, they're together. And then you have Jonathan doing whatever he's doing, and you see that he's ending up with his girlfriend. Then you can flash to the Cushings, and you have Chrissy with the new baby in arms, right? And Kyle like coming over to like coming in from his work, and he gives a kiss to both the baby and Chrissy. And then you flash to Mayor Lana, who's revitalizing Smallville now because it's the home of Superman. So there's going to be tourists. There's going to be stuff like that that'll bring that town the money that Lex was offering, but they turned down because it's nefarious money. And then you can have Clark and Lois sitting on the porch sipping wine on the porch as the sun sets or something. Like you can do that in like a 5 minute span or less and give those characters the wrap up. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I forgot mentioning John Henry Irons and Nat and stuff. But you can show those characters in those quick bits and be like, that's like I sometimes think people think we need like to see all of that. I think we'll just get the quick time jump, happy ending, boom, 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 boom. Here's some scenes that show maybe even that's happening over like Lois is giving some sort of monologue that's one of her articles that she does before she retires or something, or she's revitalizing the Gazette. Boom, boom, boom. Like you can do all of that in like 5 minutes or less, and still have all of that time for Doomsday versus Superman versus Lex versus Brainiac,
Yeah,
all
well,
that.
you make a good point. If you think about it as an hour of TV and you have three big villains, two of them are probably going to be one big fight. And then, so that's two, three scenes
And
each.
yeah, and I'm not expecting much with Brainiac other than what he's been
Yeah.
doing. So it's mainly going to be Lex, Doomsday,
I mean, it's a
Superman,
bit of a throwaway
and the
Brainiac, if
boys.
we're being honest. It's a little bit of a throwaway
It
Brainiac.
is, yeah,
But I see you don't have that big of a problem with that when you have Lex Luthor fully realized as like full Lex Luthor. Like we're getting everything Lex Luthor. We're not getting the just one side of Lex Luthor. We're getting power suit Lex Luthor. Dude,
yep.
it's just ridiculous. You got freaking Doomsday and Lex Luthor. You can go a little soft with the Brainiac thing. I think it's weird that they just keep calling him Milton. They just keep calling him Milton, and it's like,
Well, here's my thought on that is because they didn't want him to live up to the Brainiac part of
mhm,
it, like to put that expectation on them. So they say Milton, and people know that's Milton
yeah,
fine. They kind of reference Brainiac in like the first two episodes by saying he's a Brainiac. And it's like, fine, that's good. It's almost very Arrowverse, I would say, right? Where you have some characters would be a version of a character, and then maybe later on they would do their actual version of the
yeah.
character. Like Black Canary,
Th-
right?
this is uh, this is Brainiac the way that Arrow did Ra's al Ghul.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Without the promise of it being Brainiac,
yeah,
they just say it's Milton.
Milton. Yeah. Um, I, it's funny. Milton, fine. Yeah, Brainiac. I don't think I've ever met a real life Milton.
No, the only Milton I know
That's that,
was the one that
that's my
ended up
stapler.
dying in the Suicide Squad.
That's my stapler.
Oh yeah, him too.
I'm gonna burn the whole place down. People are like, "What are they talking about?" And I'll be like, "You've never seen Office Space?"
Um, but so what I just said too is pretty much my prediction for the finale would
Hmm.
be you do see like a flash forward with like Jordan and Sarah ending up together, Jonathan with his girlfriend Candace. You know, you get the baby being like maybe a quick shot of Chrissy and the baby with Kyle. Maybe seeing Lois do whatever she's doing with the Gazette. You know, because they paid out Chrissy's investment on that, and they'll let her buy it back. All that cool stuff they were doing with the Gazette to set up the, you know, we'll see them in their new home, you know, that new home they wanted to buy. We'll see that or something. Quick shot. Um, you know, Lana as mayor doing something, and then, you know, John Henry Irons maybe going solo and Nat's off to school, finishing up whatever. You know, like that's fully what I expect from the end. Um, Again, kind of like a montage. Lois maybe either the music or Lois reading some of her final article about putting Luther away or something, right? And living with Superman who's retiring or something. That's what I fully expect from the finale, and I will be completely happy if that's what happens. I'm also open to other stuff happening, but um, I do think we'll get, you know, wrap up adequately for all of the characters.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get into a really good spot where Jonathan and Jordan are comfortable being the Supermen. Um, I wonder if they even come up with a name for the duo or something. But
Wonder
well, yeah.
Twins, activate.
I uh, I think Clark and Lois will get their happy ending. One of the titles, "To Live and Die Again," made me afraid. I was like, they're not going to kill him again in this episode, are they? So now that thought's in my mind, and then the end of episode 9, you're just like, they're not going to kill him again, are they? It's a, but then you see the next week, and then Clark is giving the business to Lex Luthor, so you're like, well, that's comforting.
Yeah, I saw some people say, well, like he doesn't even have cuts on his face. I do want to say, so it's either he regenerates or they could have just like photoshopped those out for the trailer
Uh-huh.
so it doesn't give away
And
stuff. But
also,
yeah,
it's Kryptonian goodness. You can, there's so many comic booky ways to make it work that I'm really interested to see what they do. I don't know. I've said it the whole time. I said it before the season started. I said it now. I don't know how you beat this Doomsday. I don't know how you beat this Doomsday without the Phantom Zone. I don't know what to do.
as a team, that's how.
Yeah, I love how they're the whole time like, you can't go against this, you can't go against this, we don't want you, we're trying to be your parents, and now, yeah, we're gonna have to three team this. You have to like take on the guy that killed me thing.
Yeah, well, if they're never going, so that's the thing, right? It's like he's not strong enough to face Lex in the power suit, is what he says,
Hmm.
right? Because of his condition. The boys will never be enough. So you just add up the sum of the parts, and you have Superman. And what you'd also be able to do is different angles, different attack styles. Like I really thought they were going to solve that easier when they were taking on the power suit in the fortress, where we're seeing the boys take them on one at a time, and it was very like Anakin rushing Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. When Obi-Wan's like, "Let's take them together," he's like, "I'm taking them now." Like I really thought one of them would be like, "Why don't we just double team this thing, right? And then you add in, eventually they do get to that part, but like Superman is the one being the the dummy at that part. Like, you two are facing me now. And at some point it's gonna have to turn around and then be like, all three of us are going to have to take these people down. I do think maybe he can either just fly up in the sun and really supercharge again, though I would wonder why he wouldn't have done that earlier. If that's the fix, there is the possibility that um I don't know, like how, like that's why I'm thinking he's not going to become full strength
Mhm.
again. But
I
uh,
don't think you'd be. I think if they were going another season, he would become full strength again. I
so here's the thing I have for you too,
uh
Chris. We know that they said what one of the people in media said, they're doing something that has never been done before in Superman media. Is it that he retires, or did we already see that with him giving up his secret identity? Because I kind of think it's that.
I think it's that. I I would push back against that because Supergirl kind of did that with Supergirl. I know it's different and it's not the same.
Well, they said Superman, so
But at that point, you're like, it's never been done before, technically. Um, so
it's one of those sports stats of, this has never been done on a Thursday night at 7:59 p.m. by a player wearing the number 7 on this team. And you're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great stat."
you're like, I'm never going to remember half of that by the time I go to work in the
Yeah.
morning. But
Have you tried relaying those stats to
uh,
somebody? I've tried telling my dad that, like, they said he's like the first guy who's hit a home run with the wind being 64 mile. What'd
well,
you
there
say?
was one of those
64
on
mile
Thursday
hours?
night when the Browns beat the Steelers. The Steelers were the first team to lose when their opponent turned the ball over twice and they didn't turn it over. Their opponent didn't have a kickoff return or an interception or anything return touchdown, and only converted two third downs in the whole game. They're the only team to
Wow.
lose
Yeah.
in that situation. And it's glorious. But yeah, it was that is a great example of one of those stats that just popped up. I saw that on Blue Sky, by the way. We're on Blue Sky,
That's where we
but
are. We are heading towards blue skies.
yeah, I was just like,
Up, up, and
I was
away.
like, that is such a fun thing. But then I had to really memorize it because I like started talking about it. I was like, what were all the parts?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, of course, this wouldn't be as bad as that. It's just be like, this is the first
yeah.
Superman character to do this. But yeah, not really exactly not done before. So, I mean, it could be that he
Has he
retires,
never
right? Or
retired
just
as
hasn't been.
Superman and Super Hero Media?
Well, that would be a little asterisk too, because in Crisis, Smallville's Clark
Yeah.
is giving up his powers and is, raising a kid with Lois.
Well, I guess he was the only way that works is if he was never technically Superman. He was just Clark Kent.
But he
Oh,
was.
he
He
was. Yeah,
was.
you're right.
You'll see at the end of the season when you get there.
I've actually seen it in the point of the show where they go into the future and they see him as Superman.
Oh yeah, true, true. Yeah,
So
so he was
I'm
Superman.
almost
Yeah,
done Smallville. I'm very excited about it. Oh,
yeah. And once we're done this
yeah.
show and we're doing Creature Commanders and stuff, we'll try to fit in a double recording and get your, what do we got to do?
Eight,
Seasons 9
eight,
and
nine, and
10,
10. Yeah,
8, 9, and 10.
yeah.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I kind of fell out of that one. There was no more Rosenbaum, and I was
Yeah,
the show
yeah,
just felt to me the show in watching it felt like it was dead, and then
yeah,
it got really interesting,
yeah. Season 9 is consistently ranked as one of the best
and I
seasons,
agree with that. I will get there though.
and you get Absolute Justice. That was a
Oh,
great
so good,
two-parter,
so good.
written by Jeff Johns. Okay, so one thing I want to highlight as well. I really enjoyed a regular guy, the episode 7.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the strongest of the season. We have this. We have Jimmy Olsen, right? And we get, Jimmy Olsen has figured it out, but Clark can't say that he is, right? And you get his he purposely misses the softball game, the championship, because and doesn't make any saves during that time because he knows that Jimmy would put that together, so he tries to get through it that way. Um, One thing I do like on this is that they didn't really pull too much dramatics with that. Like Jimmy is obviously hurt, but like this would be like a 5 episode arc of the Flash,
Yeah.
right? Where it'd be like, you could have told me this, and like I see that we're not really friends, and like giving him the cold shoulder for things. But
Yeah.
Clark shows up and apologizes to him, and he's immediately like, I get it. Now let's talk about how you were doing the Bunt King stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Jimmy just lets it go. And that is very Jimmy Olsen.
Well, first off, this might be the best Jimmy Olsen we've gotten on this film on TV.
Until next summer,
Oh yeah,
probably,
I
yes.
no, I could see this guy blowing it out of the park for Guns Superman. I really can. But I like that actor a lot. But I will tell you that this Jimmy Olsen on Superman and Lois, it just fit it to a T. It was I like that he wasn't like pathetic. I like that he was like just kind of a normal guy, and he liked to have fun. Like it's cool. I like this Jimmy. I thought that this episode was really heartfelt, and it showed a lot of the sacrifice that Clark meant. It also showed you how much leniency you give him when you know the secret. It explains an awful lot. It's really kind of a cure-all for everything.
Yeah, I do agree that this Jimmy was very, very good. He had like the look of Jimmy down. Um, I think called him CK. He was just a very,
I
very good
smiled so
Jimmy.
much when he called him CK.
Yeah,
I was
same.
just like, that is so good. It's so meaningful. Yeah, I like everything Daily Planet. I like the Bud King thing. I think it's very clever. It's just so passable to be like. It's better than what the Flash
I'm
did.
not good enough. I can only
Yeah, yeah.
bunt, right?
It's better
Yeah,
than what the Flash did. With like Barry, like I can't catch a ball. Oh no! Like I just have to be a bumbling idiot. Um, and I like this a lot better. I think it makes sense of it. Plus, you can say I like old school baseball. Nobody bunts anymore. You can make it a whole shtick.
right, right.
Um,
Yeah, I play small ball.
yeah,
I grew up playing small ball,
Smallville, small ball.
especially they're in Kansas. Well, I don't know where Metropolis is in this show, but like he grew up in Kansas. The Royals in 2014 and 15
Yeah,
were playing small ball all the time.
uh, very very much known too. So I mean, I'm not that big of a baseball guy, and I knew that. So
Yeah, they killed the Orioles in 2014 with their small ball. I hated that.
yeah.
I hated that.
Well,
We were a home run hitting team, and you see them like just bunting people over. I'm like, why can't we
this
do
is my
that?
general
Get Clark on the
frustration
team.
with baseball in general is that there's always this battle between should we go for the home run or should we just get on base? And I'm always screaming, just get the heck on base. And they're always swinging
Yeah,
for the home run. And it's just,
that's a coaching issue. Yeah.
yeah. But that's a different podcast.
Yes. So yeah, so that episode was a highlight for me. Really enjoyed a regular guy. Um we had flashbacks to Lex and his ex-wife as he was trying to convince Elizabeth to stay with him, right? Superman arrests him
Mhm.
after he drops her off to school. Um but she is team Lois in this. She knows that her dad has done bad things, and actually, she was going to go on the Godfrey show
Yep. I
with our old pal, with our old pal
I was
here.
a little
This is
disappointed.
not the role I thought he was going to be in.
I was a little disappointed. It just I was like, you got us going. And Gordon Godfrey? Like it's a cool character, I guess. But like, God, it seems a little below his pay grade. I was a little frustrated with that. But I thought this episode was kind of the dumbest of the episodes. Not that I didn't like it, But I'm like, you're gonna give Lex Luthor exactly what he wants. You know, I it seemed a little bit forced to me, but the episode was very
Which one? The
good.
episode 8, Sharp
Yeah,
Dressed Man?
it seemed a little forced to me. I
I liked it. I do think I think what they wanted to show here was Lois being incorrect, right? Like we,
mhm.
we kind of see this with a few of them constantly, right? Like, and I think it works. Like you're not always the correct one in the relationship, and she thinks she has this on lock. I have his daughter sitting by the phone. I have the actual truth on my side, and she's going at it as if she's an act like that. She's a journalist, but they're going at it very differently.
Yeah,
And Clark is saying, "Hey, you shouldn't even go on there. Just do your rebuttal. That's it. They're setting you
Clark
up."
was right.
And not only were they setting uh, her up, but they were also setting him up,
Hmm.
right? By the distraction and getting the power suit and all that kind of stuff. So they had a full fledged plan here that Clark was wary of. Lois jumped in head first. But I think that kind of works then when then you have this episode where Clark is kind of having more of a plan and Lois is kind of reining him in a bit. Like, hey, like you don't have to do this yourself. Just like I didn't have to do the thing
I
myself,
really like
like let's
I
let's get this going.
really like that. I really like that we can get through anything together. What do they have? It's like we're an unstoppable team, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was very mature. I thought it was really
Yeah,
sweet.
who does Lex have,
Yeah,
right? Like that is
yeah.
what Clark says, and he's got what's her name? I'm blanking on her
I
name
am
here.
shoot. God dang it,
Amanda McCoy. He
Amanda
has
McCoy.
Amanda McCoy. We have each other. Like, and yes, I would take a team of Lois and Clark over the team of Amanda and Lex,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like Lex doesn't actually care for Amanda. Like this is the same thing we learned that in this is the same sort of thing he did with Gretchen or whatever her name actually is, but what we who we know as Gretchen, he did the same sort of thing with her and then is kind of disposed of her in order for for Amanda, and now is going to probably do the same thing again. And this gets Amanda kind of more on Team Lois
Hmm.
and Superman, and
She's pretty easy to turn.
especially
She's a little easy to
well,
turn, but Lex kind of did it.
I think yeah, and I think it makes sense for her to be easy to turn. She just wants him to be rich and powerful. And he wants this like petty fight with Lois, and he's like, she's like, you're gonna destroy a town for these people? Like, just have your millions and let's let's live, right?
Well, I
Like,
think she sees herself as his voice of reason, where he
yeah.
he's he's just Lex. He will always be Lex Luthor. Like it's just
And he didn't like anything she was doing,
yeah. Hmm.
I love that, right? When Clark is talking to him at some point,
Clark goes to
he
his
mentions like
office
there's
and he stands toe to toe with him, and he's not nervous at all. Dude, this guy has a 60-year-old
smiling.
heart. He knows he's not what he used to be, and he's standing there unfreaking phased. What a badass!
Smiling at him.
This is one of the most badass Superman scenes there ever was. I
Yeah.
love Tyler Heckler. I just bravo, great job.
A great Superman Lex scene. We don't get a lot of them in media.
We get so many
Since
more in comics, but in media, we just have. The problem is we haven't had the Lex. We haven't had the Lex for it most of the time. We had Eisenberg.
yeah,
Gene Hackman was the mustache twirling of them. You know, it just we.
the closest would have been the Rosenbaum
Yeah,
Welling stuff,
yeah,
but he wasn't technically Superman, right? So at their encounters, so you don't really have that uh, in the show. You have Clark and Lex scenes, but you don't have Superman
yeah.
and Lex scenes the way that you do
This
here.
is so good.
Which is
I
great.
enjoyed it. It's funny because my mom was like, "Man, you really committing to the green?" Or it's like, "Oh, he's in green." I was like, "Finally, he's finally wearing green."
My favorite part though is when he says to him, "Nice tie." And then as soon as he leaves, Lex takes that tie
Oh,
off.
it's so
He's like, oh.
I think it shows the power struggle here because I feel like Clark kind of knows that he's the bigger man, that Lex will always be this petty guy that he could play with, that he can then get on the emotional side. He can get those wins on Lex. Lex can't do that to Clark. The only thing Lex can do is attack his family. That's all Lex has on Clark. That's it.
Yeah. And I just love that it's like, oh, that's something that Superman complimented me on. Well, guess what? I'm that petty. I'm going to take it off. I
Yeah,
don't want this tie if he likes this tie.
I don't want this tie. Not a very good tie. Oh man.
And he's I think it was in the episode prior though where he's talking to him and he says, "The only thing I've noticed like different about you is that you're playing dress up, right? Like maybe you shaved your beard, you cut your hair, you're wearing a suit. Um, that's the only thing I noticed different, right? You're playing dress up, and and I think Lex agrees with that. Um, he was very uncomfortable during the Gordon Godfrey stuff. He had what looked to be a panic attack, an anxiety attack, where he's hearing every little thing. He's breathing heavier. He's like,
Isn't it nice to have a
he,
villain who's
yeah,
real? That
yes.
that's the thing I got from that. He's a real person. He's a narcissist. He's a bad person, but he's a real person, and he's like it. I was like, my God, they're almost humanizing this guy.
And this is what the media literacy on this. People thought he had Superman's heart and was developing its super hearing. I'm
What?
like, what?
What? I that must have been some.
I'm like, it was obviously just a panic
Okay,
attack. All
please
right.
log off of Facebook.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Um,
Media
but
literacy is
you know,
probably our biggest problem in general. so
it's true.
this show highlights it.
Having, but like you said, having a supervillain that's real. This is a guy with no powers. It reminds me of Penguin in the sense of that was a supervillain that was relatable at times. He's still a dick, right? Like he's still ultimately the guy we're not rooting
Yeah,
for,
yeah, being
just like Lex is. But there's
yeah, yeah,
relatable things to them, and that they're real,
being human doesn't mean we like you. It just
right?
means that we see inside under the mask a little bit. We see under the persona. So I like it when we have moments like that for any character. If we,
Same thing with like
mhm.
Thanos. Like I've seen a lot of people, who start doing the Thanos is right unironically, but you're like the whole point of Thanos. Yes, like he is sympathetic. You understand where he's coming from, but then you see that he did it the wrong way. And that's what you're supposed to get from it
Well, what's cool?
is they're
Yeah,
relatable, but you see where they went down the wrong path. And
it
that's
actually
yeah.
reminds me of a conversation we were having in class earlier today, but a completely different thing. But it was a character whose idealism crumbled before him, but he was acting like it was still about what he said it was about. It became about him at a certain point. And that's kind of what Lex
Mhm.
does. It's like, oh, this is about this. You locked me away for 16 years. I was an innocent man on that one count. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
at a certain point, it's not about the principle. It's not about that you were right. It's about you.
Yeah, exactly. While yes, he was innocent of that crime, he has done other bad things. But he makes this out to be like he is a martyr trying to bring down Lois for falsely imprisoning him when it's just she got the wrong crime because of somebody who had the ability to mimic your voice. Like it's not a reach, right? It's not a
Uh huh.
reach here on how, you know, that'd be like if somebody made an AI voice thing of somebody committing something and then being put away, and then later it comes out it's AI. it's like, oh, okay, we're sorry that we threw you away in prison for that, but like it sounded like you. It was your voice, right? Like it's understandable on how Lois got to that. And when you may have been the innocent one, when you've done other bad things that people know of and you protest innocence, it's kind of like a boy crying wolf,
Yeah,
you know,
I think
they don't believe you.
the scene with Bruno Mannheim in episode
Oh, it
9,
was great.
I thought it was so nuanced because you would think bad guy from last season, he's gonna go in there screaming and hate it. Oh, how's your cancer treatment? Oh yeah, and they talk about Pia and you know Hobbs Bay, and oh, I'm glad to hear that. And now this isn't why you're here. And then they kind of get into the conflict of a Lois and a Bruno Mannheim would get into. But it was a really nuanced way to go about it, rather than just have him, like most shows would have had him like unlocked, like, looking angry, going, "What the hell do you want?" I just thought that was very very good writing. It's like it remembered the story that they had set up. Um, I really enjoyed that scene. And Bruno Mannheim, that actor is awesome. That actor is just, I really like what he does with that character. And he's an actor that I'd like to see James Gunn swoop up in some role here or there in the DCU.
Yeah, he's great. Chad Coleman. He was in Walking Dead for a while. Um, and The Wire. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Um, yeah, I would take him in some sort of role. That is, and he was also in the
Yeah,
Arrowverse as
there. Tobias Church.
yeah, as Tobias. Yeah, it, you know, um, another pro about this being the last season and why I feel like this hits harder because it feels like a continuation of last season.
Hmm.
Like season 3 and 4 really feel like one long season because of the continuing thread of Lex and Bruno Mannheim and Lex's wrongful conviction and coming out of prison and coming at them. You had the doomsday stuff that's carrying over from season 2, actually. So, like, I think these 4 seasons are going to be like one really great binge, for people later on, because it really feels like something that the Arrowverse shows didn't get a chance to do because they had more episodes a season because they lasted for so long. Is while they would sometimes bring stuff back, it would be after a long time, or like I would say, like what the first 4 seasons of The Flash really have a consistent through line of going from point A's to point B to point C, where characters are coming back around and we're getting this and this and this. But this show will literally have season 1 setting up um the boys getting their powers, season 2 having the alternate Earth, Ali Ralston stuff, right? That then ends up introducing Bizarro, who then in season 3 is converted into being Doomsday, the release of Lex from prison, which then feeds right into this season and has been the full plot line for it, along with Lois's cancer. Like these 4 seasons will feel like one cohesive story, I think, when we look back at it afterwards.
Couldn't agree more. I think the Ali Alston uh, season was kind of the outlier of them, but I think it was so important to get to where they got with this Doomsday storyline. So and the alternate
Mm-hmm.
Earth. So everything comes together in a really nice way. I think this show just consistently does what it's trying to do. I think of it as a very efficient offense. It stays ahead of the chains. It doesn't get in bad situations. Arrow is a great example of a show that would have to work themselves out of the corners they wrote themselves into. Um, and this show doesn't do that. And the fact that it's just 4 seasons, they just needed 4 good stories. They just needed 4 good stories and string them together. And there will probably be like we should probably do when this is done like a top 10 episodes of the show. But I think when we go through it, we're gonna find there are only a couple of weeks where we weren't really feeling it, and I don't think there was I don't think there's a single filler episode of the show.
Yeah, and I think my favorite, if we're talking top 10, I'm thinking a couple of them are going to come from this season and last season.
I think I think you could give me an argument where 6 or 7 of the top 10 are seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah, I would probably agree. Close to it.
I actually could see where, like, I don't know that anything's stopping the the memory one, the flashback one from season 1.
From season one.
And the
Yeah.
and
That's my favorite of season one, at
yeah,
least.
I don't know that anything's topping
But
that.
I don't know. I might sound crazy. I think regular guy is
It's
up
a
there
really
for me.
good episode though, so like I'm not gonna argue. Like I really love that episode. Like we were talking about this, the sharp dressed man one. I said was a little, it was kind of a little forced. I I think I'll find that it was probably my least favorite of the season. Probably,
Hmm.
but the least favorite of the season doesn't mean bad because there hasn't been a bad episode.
I think my least favorite would probably be Break the Cycle so far. Um,
Yeah, the Lex stuff and the daughter got a little convoluted, but I think what that did so well though was show the the inability to get off of it for Lex. It was the inability, the psychosis that went into his rage. So I thought that was very important.
yeah, but it also just had like I don't know, like it just felt like I was very excited to see Elizabeth and stuff, but then it just kind of went, I guess, a different way than I thought it was going to go.
I think you could argue that it was
I would say
unethical that they tried to do that in the first place with like play with the daughter so they would stop coming after them.
episodes 7 through 9 so far have been my favorite of the season.
Hmm.
I actually really enjoyed Sharp Dressed Man. And then I would also say up there is probably like, the first two episodes. My only big ones would be like episodes 5 and 6 is where the season kind of lulled for me a little bit. Um, but then like I said, 7 through 9 so far, and getting ready for episode 10 is, which I assume to be a really good. Like I feel like the back half of the season will be like something I revisit quite a bit
Yeah,
for top Superman
I
stuff.
think because it's 4 seasons, one of the advantages this show will have over, say, like a Smallville, which is 10 seasons, is 10 long seasons too, is that
Yeah,
you could kind of do Superman and Lois in a season of the year. You know, it's not a huge commitment, and you can also easily find your favorite spots, especially on streaming. So I think this show is gonna have longevity for that reason. I look, Superman TV. That's long lasting. I mean, people are still watching Dean Cain's Superman. For being honest. So
yeah. Okay. What else do we have to talk about here that we didn't talk about so far? Um,
the diner scene where he,
yes, in regular guy.
yeah, that was special.
It was a kind of almost like a flip from when he confronted Candace's father, Emmett, last season. It was last season that happened, right?
Correct. Which
Yeah.
I might be that last season episode. That might be one of my favorite scenes of the whole series. But this one, I, it's weird because Emmett's such a hateable character, but every time he's on, it's a banger. It's a banger of an episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's just a very punchable guy. I mean,
It
so
really
we
is.
have, we have this scene where this is when he determines that he has to reveal himself, pretty much. Um, and it's because he's also causing stress to everybody around him, but he's also putting all of them in harm, right?
Hmm.
Because the guy comes in with a gun, he's waving around a gun. Um, so he decides. I love that slow mo scene where he takes off his glasses, he takes a look at Lois, and he's like, all right, I know what I got to do here. And then you just see the shirt rip. And also, I just love how my boy Kyle was sticking up for his guy here. He was like, go home, dude. Like, this guy could never be Superman. He's like, yeah, this guy understands the assignment. Kyle's like, I'll lie for you, I'll do whatever. You guys are helping me buy a house. I'm going to do whatever I can for you.
Yeah,
They could have also they could have made the price of the house a little bit more expensive, I think, because 300,000 is a bargain right now. Now maybe in Kansas it's
it's
not,
not
but
a
like in
bar. It's
Maryland, that's a
Hey,
bargain
look,
for that
it's
house.
not about the price. It's about their jobs.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
very
But I'm
low
just
paying
saying, like,
jobs.
I was waiting for it to be like a $500,000, $600,000 house, and I'd be like, oh yes, I understand your struggle.
I
Um,
understand their struggle. I couldn't buy the house. Like, God, you're making me feel shamed here.
well, no, I can't. I probably can't afford 300,000 right now. But my point is,
I'm not trying.
like my townhouse, uh, we bought for well less than that. But the one next to us went for $300,000 last year for a townhouse. This was a very nice house with a nice yard, not a
Yeah,
townhouse, and it was 300,000. So I was kind of comparing to what I see as prices around.
I know.
There's a townhouse near my work that went for $600,000. So I would this $300,000 with a nice yard and all that. That's great. Now in
I think
Kansas, that might be very expensive.
we've discovered that I'm the broke one on the show.
Well, I don't know. I have a kid now, so
You know. Oh my goodness. But yeah, the whole episode though, I was going, they're selling their you're selling your grill. What's that gonna do?
yeah, your used grill is gonna get like 2 grand, maybe. That's not enough for a down payment.
I was like, what's that gonna do? Okay, you're gonna sell, and then you're gonna sell everything that you need, and like you're gonna have a house with nothing in it. I don't know. It just seems stupid.
Um. Okay. Then we had. I mean, I think that's mostly all of it,
Yeah,
right? We got more comic accurate Doomsday as he's get killed again, and he has even
dude,
more
dude.
of his
When
look.
he Now, I watched it today, and unfortunately, I saw the still frame on social media.
Same. I saw it
I was
beforehand
so
as well.
frustrated because I tried not to, and like I just was
Hmm.
scrolling, and I was like, "That looks like dupes." Oh, that you know. But
Yeah.
I, what an incredible use of the budget there. That is that's
Looks good. Daytime.
okay. Well, I have so many questions, but like if I ever like sat down with Zack Snyder, I'd be like, "So you're telling me that a TV show with a slash budget did Doomsday better than you did?"
Yeah.
I can't get past that thought. That's the best Doomsday you're gonna get, dude. That is awesome. Comic
Yeah.
accurate and
Also,
everything.
I also think also did Death of Superman better than Snyder. Um.
Well, I never really
So,
look. It's so here's the thing. He's a visual story maker. His thing is the images. So like, I'm never gonna get on him for the writing as much as some people do because it's not his strength, and we all kind of know that. But like, I expect Superman and Lois to write that better, but to look better, I'm
mhm.
impressed.
Yeah. So all right, before we wrap it up here, any last minute predictions or theories on your end?
Yeah,
I shared a lot on what I feel like is going to happen. So
I think.
tell us, Chris, what's going to happen next Monday night?
All right, I think we're gonna see him get taken by Doomsday. Jordan and Jonathan are going to heat vision the crap out of him, loosen it up, and you're going to get a three-way fight early in the episode between Doomsday and the Super Trio. And I think that will focus on Lex Luthor, and Clark will say, no, this one I'm doing on my own. This one's personal. And I think we're going to have one of the all time Clark just found a way to get it done moments. That's kind of my take on that. Um, and I think we're gonna kind of get the happy ending. Um, I think it ends with Lex Luthor going back to jail. I'd love it if they actually just killed him. I love that argument where Jonathan was like, "Can we just take this guy out? Like, shouldn't we just do it?" Like, I love the fact that like we don't do that, and it was just it because I'm like, you're getting into that Joker Batman argument. Would it be better just to kill him? Ah, I
I don't know. If you can put him away with irrefutable evidence this time, then he's going away for good. Like he didn't get out of prison with his money or
right.
anything, so I think he'll be all set. Um,
Yeah,
Definitely better than
we'll
killing
get a
him.
good guy victory. We won't get super Lex died, but I I would love them to embarrass the daylights out of him though. I would love them to
Mhm.
take him down in a way where Lois and Clark are just like, "Gotcha, bitch." I
Yeah,
obviously much more nuanced and grown up than "Got you, bitch," but
yeah.
I don't want Lois to spit on his shoe and say, "Got you, bitch." That's not what,
I kind of want that. Let's do
actually, yeah, would be kind of rewarding.
that.
But Lex Luthor brings out the worst in all of us. Is kind of the point here.
Yes. Yeah. Um, I would also love if we just have everybody tag teaming in this, and then we have Lois say, "We are Superman." I think that would be a great ending to the
We
show.
are the Superman. Um,
We are the
and
Superman.
then she just gets on a group text with Candace and be like, "Yo, girl, self empowerment. I did it." Or Iris.
um,
Yeah, I said the
yeah,
actress's
Candace
name.
Patton.
I said the
Yeah.
actress's name, but Iris. But yeah, she just gets on a group text and be like, "I did it. We are the Superman."
That's of course a reference for people that don't know to the Flash. Iris said, "We are the Flash," which I actually didn't hate.
Yeah.
A lot of people make fun of it though, so I just thought I would throw a little reference into that. Um,
Well,
but yeah, I
yeah,
already pretty much said my thoughts on what I
yeah.
expect to
I think
happen.
we covered what we think's gonna happen. I don't.
Yeah.
I I'm nervous because I just need the show to stick the landing. Like I need the show to stick the landing. Finales are always
What would it do? Okay, what what does it take to not stick the landing? Like what are you dreading happening if
okay.
what would happen that make you say no, it didn't stick the landing?
You kill Superman again. That would kind of not work for me.
And like he stays
Yeah,
dead?
like you just finality, like it's over kind of thing. Um, that wouldn't work. I don't. I want a happy ending. I don't want a convoluted ending though. I just want a happy ending where none of the main people die. Um, like I don't want a senseless. Oh, it would have been so easy to just not kill this person, but yeah, let's kill this person. I don't want. You know what I mean? I want a happy ending. I want a satisfying ending. I want an episode that's of the quality of this past episode. I'm hoping that they saved enough of the budget to like just go completely bananas for that 10th episode. I want to see.
I think I think they probably have
Yeah,
because like I feel like with what we saw this week, and this is really like the first big action since Clark has come
yeah.
back. So I do think they probably saved it all for this. We've had a lot of character build up.
I want to see spectacle. I want to remember watching this episode. Now, I don't want to just remember the episode. I want to remember watching the episode the rest of my life. Yeah, I this show is very important to me, and I think it's kind of honestly, it's kind of the reason we're podcasting together because you're like, hey, if anyone wants to talk about Superman and Lois and has a mic, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I literally stopped on my walk, like, and just sent you a tweet or a message or whatever. And here we are. So this show pretty big deal to me.
Brought us together.
Yeah, it's a pretty big
Yeah.
deal to me. I wanted to stick the landing, and I'm nervous for it because I see so many shows just not sticking the landing.
Yeah. I think they will. Uh, unless, like you said, it's like some sort of really dour ending. But I think from what I saw in this episode and the legwork they do in this one to set up what's going to happen next time, I think it'll stick the landing generally, and I
Yeah.
think we will have a happy ending with Lex behind bars,
Hmm.
Doomsday either dead or maybe they help him get home. He was back at the mines trying to get home. Like that could be part of it.
It's actually so sad and like
Yeah,
sympathetic too.
it
It's
is. Yeah,
like if you would have told me you'd have a comic accurate Doomsday that would actually have like a man behind all the monster that you would feel bad about, I didn't have that on my bingo card. I didn't.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's that's what grown up writing is. These are big boy writers, big boy, big girl writers.
Todd Helbing, baby,
Yeah,
best writer on the Flash.
agreed.
Okay, we'll wrap it up. At elseworldsdcfan on all of our social medias. Like Chris said, we're also on Blue Sky now. Um, so we'll be sharing and skeeting over there, I guess. Um, and yeah, so next week we'll talk the finale of the show, and then Creature Commandos will drop. So we'll probably have another episode the week after or whatever, talking about the first 2 or 3 episodes. I don't know how many they're dropping. I think they're dropping the first 2 or something for Creature Commandos. So we'll discuss that because I think the show drops on the 3rd or the 5th. I forget.
It's the second. The the finale is the second.
Creature
The
Commando.
fifth. The fifth for
Yeah.
Creature Commandos.
So that's a Thursday. So probably by the time we record, they'll have the first 2 episodes out and be building up to the third one or whatever, and we'll discuss that premiere. Um, and then yeah, we're pretty much building up
The
to
trailer.
Superman after that. We do Creature
Hmm.
Commandos in December. Yeah, the trailer is supposed to drop sometime probably in December or
Hmm.
January. People keep saying December. I keep saying January just so that way if it comes earlier, I'm happy.
It's a
Um,
good tactic.
yeah, instead of vice versa where it happens in January and I was thinking December the whole time.
I'm like,
So that's
yeah.
kind of how I'm setting myself up.
I'm like, give it to me now. I'm like, give it to me now. But what I would love it to do, I'd love it to drop on Christmas. I think that would be perfect.
Nice little present
Yeah.
for all of
No, but I'd
us.
love it. Like the Ravens play Christmas on Netflix. I love them to cut to a commercial. And
Are they going to do commercials on this show? I guess they
yeah,
will, won't
they
they?
have to. I mean, they can't just, what are they going to do? Just have it like, just look at a view of the stadium. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I've watched soccer games like
uh,
that. When it hits halftime, they just show the
okay.
stadium as on like
But
Paramount or
I
whatever.
would love it to be right before
Yeah.
halftime, be like, and stay tuned for a special first look at James Gunn's.
Oh yeah, they're not going to do it during the football games. That's probably that's probably expensive.
It would be cool to be though. If you're asking me what I want,
Yeah, yeah.
you're asking me what I
Well,
want.
but as soon as that drops, we're going to try to do an episode as fast as we can to discuss the trailer, of course. But then once Creature Commandos is done, we're looking at Superman being the next thing on the docket. So we'll be building up to that throughout, and then we also have Fantastic Four that same month. If that doesn't move, so next year is a pretty big year, and we'll have Peacemaker season 2 later in the year as
Yep.
well. But yeah, that's about it. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time when we talk the finale, which is titled "It Went By So Fast."